So the video is entitled Democrats Stunned After Trump Federalizes DC.
August 11th, and Dems flabbergasted this morning as to why the president's federalizing DC. Also, California Governor Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass under the microscope after Trump confirming they are, in fact, slow walking the permitting process in LA and Pacific Palisades. Purposely, he says, to build affordable housing. Yes, wasn't that a conspiracy? Once again, it turns out to be true, and China's Navy epically trolled this weekend. We're going to show you why, and more stories as well from around the country.
You know, my father always used to tell me, I had a wonderful father, very smart, and he used to say, son, when you walk into a restaurant and you see a dirty front door, don't go in, because if the front door is dirty, the kitchen's dirty also. Same thing with the Capitol. If our Capitol's dirty, our whole country is dirty, and they don't respect us. So it's a very good question, actually.
So, President,
I mean, I agree. How are you supposed to be the greatest nation on earth? And some would say that we're not. But honestly and truly, if you think about all the things that were invented in this country, if you think about the way that American politics affects everybody all around the world, people should not come to our country and our capital looks like a complete shithole. Sorry. Or be in fear of getting robbed or murked on the street.
Trump going on offense, invoking the DC Home Rule Act to temporarily federalize the District of Columbia, a law that grants the president the authority to take federal control of the Metropolitan Police Department in DC. It also gives him the authority to deploy the National Guard onto the streets of DC. But what's important, what matters here, from their point of view, is taking command and control of the DC Metro Police. We'll explain why we think he's doing this in a minute. Announcing this move at this morning's White House press conference, flanked by his Attorney General, the FBI Director, SecDef Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of the Army, and the new DC Attorney General, announcing Washington, D.C. is now under federal control.
And we're here for a very serious purpose, very serious purpose. Something's out of control, but we're going to put it in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be...
Now, I was in the Shade Room comments. You know, if you want to witness low IQ conversation, the Shade Room never disappoints. So all up and down those comments, people were like, oh my gosh, he's enacting martial law. When no, he's not. He's federalizing the police. That's different. So, for example, under a system where we had martial law, or if he was going to enact martial law, all civilian laws could be suspended. What does that mean? That means that, like, your constitutional rights, for example, your right to assembly, freedom of the press, your freedom of movement, you know, there would be like a restriction on how late you as an adult could be out, because I know some places place restrictions on teenagers, which he probably should do that. Honestly and truly, all cities need to have a curfew on teenagers, because again, it's these YNs that are out of control. It is. And a YN could be anybody that's out at night wreaking havoc on the community. In my opinion, is a YN. I don't care what they look like. Okay. So this is not martial law. This is him saying the police force is not able, either unable or unwilling to keep the community safe. So we are going to federalize it. We are going to send you help, and you are going to be under our directive. All citizens will still maintain their rights. That is the difference. And honestly and truly, I don't understand, especially when I go to places like the Shade Room, and like, honestly, communities of color are the ones who have to deal with the consequences of this type of behavior the most. So I never understand why we go against this, because you have to send your children out onto the street to go to the store, to walk to school, to ride the bus, to be in public places. You know, it's the children of minorities, especially when we talk about the African American community, who are being unalived in behind these other children or these other YNs that don't know how to act. Yet y'all get mad at Donald Trump when he says it's time to do something about this. And I'm going to do something about this. You know, the only people who should feel away are the people who don't know how to act, or you know that you raised your children to not know how to act.
Meeting the people that will be directly involved with that.
Trump saying this is Liberation Day in DC. We are taking our capital back, and then going on to drop the real bomb on the pro-crime Dem cities around the country, saying you are next. We know New York's watching. We know Chicago's watching. Incompetent J.B. Pritzker, he says, we know you're watching. And watch closely, because if you don't clean up your streets fast, if you don't immediately repeal cashless bail and begin prioritizing law-abiding citizens over these thugs, your city is next.
I have a question, especially to my African American people out here. Why are we so against this? If we are the ones being affected the most, if the mothers in our community are having to bury their son at a higher rate than mothers of other safer communities, why are we against this the most? I want to know. And yeah, I'll hear all the excuses. People be like, oh, the kids act like this because of slavery. What does that do to keep the kids who are here now safe? You can talk about systemic racism. You can talk about slavery. You can talk about all that. But at the end of the day, a lot of these boys are walking around waiting on somebody to try them so that they can pop off. Waiting to victimize somebody. And it just might be your child. And the leaders in these democratic cities don't want to do anything about it. As a matter of fact, in places like New York, they will go to jail and be out the next day on no cash bail. So it was like something that was intended for good, because I remember the argument used to be poor people are at a disadvantage due to cash bail, and if you're rich, you can get out. And it's like, in theory, that sounded great. And I understand that. I understand wanting to be compassionate. I understand wanting to give people who are less fortunate help, you know, or be more equitable. But like, we have to be realistic about the way in which this has turned out. It's not working out for our communities. We're far less safe than what we were before they ended the cash bail. And it's just a matter of fact. So sometimes you just got to admit when you're wrong. We ain't doing right with it. Hey, what's up, Cha-Cha? It's good to see you. Glad you could listen in, girl. Okay, let's continue. If you're just now coming in, please hit the like button. That helps people know that I'm on live.
You expect more cities to follow DC's path if this goes through. So the idea is that Chicago, LA, San Francisco, would they expect similar action to what we've seen in DC?
We're going to have a tremendous success in what we're doing. Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching, just like everyone's watching here. They're all watching. And maybe they'll clean up, and maybe they'll self do this and get rid of the cashless bail thing and all of the things that caused the problem. I mean, if you go back, this whole thing with cashless bail is a disaster.
It is.
So many problems came that we never had before. So they're watching us today, and if they don't learn their lesson, if they haven't studied us properly, because we're going to be very successful.
The stuff I see people getting away with in New York, especially people that aren't even from this country, I've seen them arrest so many people who came here. You're not even supposed to be here. You robbing and looting jewelry stores, the malls. Though a lot of stores in New York are leaving, they're packing up and leaving because they're like, we're constantly getting robbed. If you go to the drug stores there, they have everything locked up. Only for these people to get arrested, be released the next day, and go do the same thing all over again. And then the more practice they get, and then they know they're not going to jail, the better they get at it. I think one of the main problems with Democrats is that we have convinced, and again, I used to think this way too, that these are all simply just crimes of poverty, and that if all these people had the choice or had the opportunity to be on the straight and narrow, that they would choose something differently. And to that I say, y'all need to travel abroad and come across real psychopaths. There are people out here. That's the thing. I say this all the times. Americans are so nice and so sweet and so naive and so gullible. We are. We really are. Y'all don't understand the depths, the levels of evil that exist out here in this world. There are people that genuinely do crime because they want to do crime. They love it. They get a thrill from it. It pays more than trying to do right. And they don't care who they hurt in the process. They have absolutely no conscience about it. They don't feel bad about it. They don't go sit in jail and learn their lesson. And yeah, you do have those people who kind of just were in a bad situation and got caught up. But I would say those are far fewer. The kids act like this because of slavery. Girl, they will blame slavery. They will blame everything else besides the fact that you go to work, you come home, you send your kids to school. When a teacher calls you about your child acting up in school or skipping class, you cuss the teacher out. Then when they get home, you don't make them do their homework. You let them stay on the game and cuss their peers out all night. And you let them just completely run amok, and you don't teach them anything about morals, standards, values, or expectations for themselves. And then every time you get in trouble, you say it's because the teacher doesn't like them or the white man is against them or slavery. They see absolutely nothing wrong with the way that they run their household. And I'm not even just talking about in the hood. This was my experience when I worked in a Black suburb. This is how these parents interacted with their children. Some smoking weed with the kids. You can come do the nasty with your boyfriend or girlfriend. I can't tell you how many students I had that told me that they go spend the night at their boyfriend and girlfriend's house. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you sneak in the house? No, I go through the front door. What do you mean you go through the front door? Yeah, the mom lets me. It's the mothers. It's the mothers more than anything that are allowing this type of behavior. What? Y'all, this new generation different. Okay, millennial parents did a number on these kids. You know what it is? We were so, I guess, traumatized by the way that we were raised because a lot of our parents weren't really affectionate or didn't tell us that they love us or the belt was the answer for everything. You know, they would whip us for the smallest thing, but let us run amok around the community. That we decided to do the complete opposite. And that's never good. If your whole parenting style is based on, I don't want to raise my kids the way my parents raised me, and it's not based on whether or not it's effective parenting that makes sense, because some of the stuff our parents did, some kids do need to be spanked. I'm going to say that. Does that need to be your go-to? Does it need to be all the time? No, but kids need to know if I need to, that's in the arsenal. It's never off the table. A kid don't never need to walk around feeling like they can just do, especially a smaller kid, because if you get them while they're smaller, you don't have to do it when they get older. But a kid just never needs to walk around feeling that comfortable with being disrespectful. I'm sorry. Mitch, make juvenile detention great again. I agree. I'm a product of juvenile detention. Okay. I was in and out of juvenile since I was 11 years old. And guess what? I couldn't believe it when I became a teacher and I would see these kids fighting in school. And then the fights were bad. They would jump. Like, we didn't jump when I was a kid. And, I used to have to go sit down and do that time after a fight. Or I used to have to, my parents, one time there was a girl who kept trying to fight me at school. And the only thing that deterred me from doing it was because I was living with my grandparents at the time. And this was during the time where if you fought at school, they were going to give you a $300 or $400 ticket for your parents to pay. So I waited and waited until summer came and I caught her in the neighborhood. But guess what? That was one fight that didn't happen at school where people were supposed to be learning. Okay. Make juvenile detention great again. I love that. Okay. I don't think a reasonable father would let the sleepover fly. A lot of parents were raised in a single parent home. Yeah. A lot of the times, more than anything, it's these women who were letting these children run amok like that.
Zero doubt about that. It's going to be. It's a question of will it be really fast, like the border. Everyone said, they used to say, Biden used to say, I need legislation. I didn't get any legislation. I called up our people and we did a great job. Tom Homan was great. As you know, our secretary did a great job. They did a great job. There's no games. They didn't play games. And we're going to have the same thing here. But then I'm going to look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man. And
Brandon Johnson, come to the front of the classroom. You've been put on notice. And they have been tearing you a new one since before Donald Trump got in office. It's so crazy, y'all. I have watched countless town hall meeting after countless town hall meeting of the citizens of Chicago telling this man, we do not like how you are handling the migrant crisis. We do not want illegal immigrants here in our city. I remember one woman said, Tom Homan, you come get this. I can't even say the word here on YouTube. You come get him first. You come get him before you come get the illegals. You come get him first. Right? And this man continues to defend illegal immigration and say he's going to defy Trump when his constituents are saying, hell no, we do not want this.
We have an incompetent governor there. Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance. You never know what happens.
Mainstream media was aghast by this, being taken completely by surprise. Apparently, no leaks came out about this beforehand, some of them having legit panic attacks on air. But the main takeaway seems to be nobody's sure why the Trump administration's doing this now. Why use all this political capital and do this now? Watch.
I don't starve, I do Tai Chi.
In 1 week, you'll feel better. In 2 weeks, you look better.
Why is this issue, and again, you're going to get into the fact check of what is wrong about his figures or not, but why is this the top of the President of the United States agenda today? And I think that's an important question for us to think about as we think about everything that's on his plate. Why is taking over law enforcement in the District of Columbia? Now, he made the argument as to why, and that it's a capital city, and that the way he sees it is that it is crime-ridden and needs to be changed. But still, why is the President of the United States putting that front and center? So that's a question I sort of try to think about.
You just explained it. You just said it. You just explained it. Why are you still asking the question? Why are you still asking? Why is that? It's a huge deal. He explained, you just explained it. It's the nation's capital. It is a representative of our country as a whole. When people think the United States of America, they think DC. They think Washington, DC. They think Capitol Hill. That's where they think. Second might be New York, and then like California. But if you go to DC and you go to New York and all you see is squalor and crime, what is that going to make you think about the rest of the country? How can the United States of America feel that it has any sense of authority when dealing with foreign nations, and you can't even clean up your nation's capital? What do you mean? Why is he making this front and center? Then Democrats like to say things like, oh, well, of all the things he has going on, this is what he chooses to deal with. Excuse me? Because let's pull up the track records and the receipts of what was going on during the last administration. All y'all got were excuses. All y'all got were Rona mandates and excuses every single time as to why you couldn't get what you want. Now, I have my criticisms of Donald Trump. I don't like how he handled the situation with Iran at all. I don't like how he handled the Epstein files at all. Completely lost trust there. But we can't say that in terms of domestic policy that he is not doing everything that he promised to do on the campaign trail, which is more than what I can say for any president in modern history. The American people are used to somebody saying they're going to do all these things and not even a quarter of them get done. So Donald Trump is about that action. So don't act like he's just focusing on DC. Our border is the securest that it's been in decades. That was a huge thing he ran on. Putting a stop to all these transgender athletes competing against girls and federal funding for transgender surgeries. He campaigned on that because that's what the people wanted. That was a major issue that pushed people out of the Democrat Party. Even here on YouTube, we've been freer to speak how we really feel. You used to be worried about losing your whole entire channel under the Biden administration. Now people, both conservatives and liberals alike, can get on here and pretty much say what we want to say. And freedom of speech is one of the cornerstones of American democracies. These deals on trades, tariffs, minerals, chips. This is a mover and a shaker here. So let's not play these games.
Perspective, is the purpose of this action purely to have just a massive show of force on the streets of DC, or in practice, is there anything that will be done differently with the police department under federal control?
To divine what the purpose is of this deployment of National Guard assets, what this reallocation of things like FBI agent resources to patrol the streets of DC, it raises some important questions like, what is it? Why this production? Why this kind of Potemkin village of criminal intervention in a city? What is this designed to distract us from? I don't know that I can answer that for you here, but
so what we do know is the Trump administration's been fighting these sanctuary cities for months, all of them refusing to work with ICE, Chicago PD, LAPD, NYPD, Boston PD. What do all of these sanctuary city police departments have in common? They are not allowed, legally not allowed to help ICE, even though they have thousands of illegals in custody on any given day, or had in custody, and now they have their addresses, something which would make ICE's job much easier, much safer. But due to these sanctuary state laws, they aren't allowed to provide that info to ICE. Well, taking federal control over the police department, taking command and control, means they now have access to all that information. Rolling this out in DC first, seeing if it's worth pursuing in these other sanctuary states. Will it make a difference, a big enough difference to use the political capital required to do it outside of DC? I think that may be what's happening here, because you know what they're going to say, that Trump is militarizing our streets. That takes political capital. His poll numbers will go down for that. MSNBC melting down over this and utterly perplexed that somehow Trump won over the DC mayor. This was interesting. How exactly did he manage to do that? Watch these anchors' faces when they expect DC Mayor Bowser to fight back against Trump like she's always done, only to find out she supports him now. This was great. Watch.
One of the things that we have seen over and over from the—
Let me say this. This is actually a win for her because she can defer the responsibility for this crackdown to Donald Trump, because y'all know in Democrat-run cities, they always get upset when there is a crackdown on crime, because liberal voters, for the most part, this is not all, but for the most part, do not like law and order standards, boundaries, and expectations. They just do not. So when you have a mayor come in that tries to actually enforce the law, then the citizens don't like that. And I remember, especially, I never understand, even like especially as a woman, right? Because crime affects the weakest people the most, children and women, in places where there is not effective, competent, and capable law enforcement. You are going to be the first person to get unalived, attacked, and raped in an alley, which is what's going on in places like DC and New York. The rape rate has skyrocketed. But because you were thinking about your son that you won't get a hold of and you don't want him to end up in jail, then everybody else has to suffer. So this is a win for her, because this is not her doing this. This is Donald Trump saying it has to get done.
The president, from his team, Stephen Miller saying it's like Baghdad in Ethiopia. They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority Black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
Hold on, here he go, trying to race bait. Oh, well, they criticize these cities that's majority Black and brown. What does the data say, sir? What does the crime rate look like in these cities? What are people saying about how safe they feel when they travel to these cities? What do the stats look like? Stop using the race card. Stop pretending like these people are not where they are and are acting how they're acting every single time. It is pathetic. If we want to improve our reputation as a culture, the best way to do that is to put the worst offenders in our culture behind bars. That way people can say they feel safe when they go to brown and Black communities. Don't you think? Wouldn't that be the best thing? Get the ones that don't know how to act off the street so that they can say, I went to DC or I went to Baltimore, Maryland, and it was just one of the nicest places, and the people are so hospitable, and the streets are so nice and clean, and I can walk anywhere I want to walk, and I don't have to worry about getting mugged. Okay.
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of easy fodder on the campaign trail. But now we're talking about governing, and my job is to focus on making sure our city is running well, and people enjoy a great quality of life. And I think we're doing a really good job. We do need the federal government's help, as I mentioned, because they have an outsized influence on our criminal justice system. We need more prosecutors. We need more judges. There are other ways to help. Even we want to rebuild our jail, and there are ways that the feds can help with that. But also just doing their part, cutting the grass, fixing the fountains, making sure that federal law enforcement is doing all of the policing that they can do. And I just have to say thank you to MPS, FBI, AT.
You know why she changed her tune from when Donald Trump was on the campaign trail? It's because she has to. She has to. If you are a liberal, you have to dislike Trump. You have to hate them. You got to pretend that you're soft on crime and you don't like law and order. But like she said, she's been dealing with this situation for a very long time. They don't have the resources to handle it. So she's happy somebody stepping in and handling it.
Yeah, who've always worked cooperatively with us, and we expect that they will again.
What exactly just happened here? This lady is a Trump hater through and through.
No, she's
Did
not.
Kash Patel, J. Edgar Hoover this lady? That's what it looked.
A lot of these people just act and put on fronts and airs. Because again, they know that is how you win with your constituency. If you can just be like Trump this, Trump liar, Trump bad, Trump this, you don't even have to promise your constituents anything tangible that could benefit their lives. As long as you're in a Democrat-run city and you can put all the focus on Donald Trump, you have a very high chance of winning favor with the people. It's just the matter of fact. You don't actually really have to do anything for them.
Looks like videos posted on social media last night showing federal authorities already cleaning up DC this weekend. The 5 people arrested were in possession of illegal firearms, some of them drug possession. Additionally, there are plans in the works to relocate the homeless population out of DC as well. Let me know what you think about that.